Be sure to hit that subscribe button. Be sure to like, be sure to share, be sure to comment. Say hey. Say hey. Motherfucking jackpot. We still jackpot, bitch.
Who can complain? Who can complain about Nagabo? Let's put a little bit better background in here. I don't know if I'm going to be a Hexican pirate today, but I am a guest on the Discourse Syndicate. Today, the network is all about pirate talk. And I'm really excited to bring on a good friend that's been a associate friend for quite some time, and some of his life experience and some of his involvement with recently with crypto. Really excited to bring him on today and share with you guys kind of the lifestyle outside of crypto, kind of the lifestyle of other people that are successful. They have professions, they have adventure in their blood. They are more of a world citizen because they're exposed outside of this bubble of what the United States represents for a lot of people. So one, I want to get into a little bit of the life adventure of my good friend Tom, but I also want to share kind of the mentality of some of the people that he associates with. They're very successful people in this world, and you may see them as quote unquote influencers like the Grant Cardones of the world, the Robert Kiyosaki's of the world. Some of my friends like George Gammon and so forth have been more popular, blowing up on YouTube and such in the financial space. Paulson, everyone knows Buffett and Gates and Jobs as far as names. But, I wanted to talk with Tom about some of these associations, kind of where he sees the future going in 2021 versus 2020. And, just kind of explore what it's like to be a Pulsian, because he has shared with me that he is part of this Pulse community as well. So we'll talk a little bit about that. We'll talk about his perception of Richard Hart, if he's done any kind of research recently. But I'm very excited to bring on my good friend, Tom. I think he's streaming from either a different country or maybe Arizona. But let's bring him on and see what his resolution camera might not be that great, but I think his sound is really good. So without further ado, let's bring on my friend, Tom. Hey, man. Hey, what's going on?
How are you?
Exciting, man. It's been great. I really am glad to be reaching out to people that are, we've been talking to a lot of Hexicans over the past 2 years as we develop this network as far as that goes. But my personal relationships and friendships, and obviously we've lived beside each other, seen each other quite some time as Puerto Ricans, so to speak. But I just wanted to kind of introduce you to this community and get your feedback on your life experiences first, kind of where you started from, how you got into the profession that you're in, how that profession could have been mainstream 747 carrying 500 people at a time versus the association with wealthy people that you really work with now. So if you can kind of start us out on that journey of who is this Tom upstairs?
Okay, so I'm currently on vacation. I'm in Selva, northern Italy, in the Dolomite Mountains. Really beautiful area. Highly, highly recommend it. But professionally, I'm a private jet pilot, and I'm based in San Juan. So friends with Gary and lots of people in the crypto community. And both of the people, so I fly primarily two people, very high net worth individuals. One is from traditional finance and hedge funds. And since really the last year, enormous portion of that has moved into crypto. So I've witnessed some of that transition. And then some of the other people are private equity that have, they've been in crypto through, very diversified investments and not necessarily even knowing too much about it. But then being in PR with you, there's so many people, big names that have moved there. So I've definitely met some very influential people in the space. Unfortunately, I didn't get into Hex as early as I met Gary here.
There's a lot of meat on the bone, man. We're gonna see what happens.
And I'm not the only one. I was talking to a couple portfolio managers recently, and they're like, I missed that opportunity, and it's not something they could have even brought into the institutional clients because. I mean, right now, most of them are still having a difficulty with the regulations around a MetaMask. So it would just be for personal investments, and that's just the one. And now they've gone in the big sacrifice, and hopefully we'll change that. But so professionally, I've been around a lot of high net worth individuals, I mean, I would say about 50% of my job is flying the airplane. That's the easy part. And I would say the other 50% is really kind of being an executive assistant because in my part of aviation, it's not even charter. It's just flying for two guys. And we do everything from planning the flights to, catering, managing the airplane, maintenance, schedules, really everything. So I would almost say I'm half pilot and half concierge in a very, very fancy hotel. And that's very different than the airlines. I think it's the best job because, say we'll go to Arizona for a few days and I'll go skydiving. I'll go to the Grand Canyon. And then, based in PR, we went to the Bitcoin conference. I go to cool places all the time. And I can even have family travel with me because it's a pretty big plane. However, since there's only two guys that have the plane, if they want to sell the plane or change planes, it's probably not quite as stable as airlines. But, you being, working for yourself, being an entrepreneur, that's probably completely comfortable for you. And, more risk, but I would say way better lifestyle, way better rewards.
Yeah, so this fairly recent affiliation. I mean, you've been doing this for some time as far as the high net worth individuals. Kind of the same sort of thing with me. When I was in Silicon Valley, I was in cardiology, and my patients. I'm working a normal kind of medical career, but my patients were like the founders or the startups of the 1960s, 70s, and 80s. So magnetic tape, reel to reel, what Silicon Valley became as far as an industry of producing actual silicon wafers that became computers, those guys were now in their 60s, 70s, and 80s. And I started to be impacted by the entrepreneurial mindset. My normal course was a farmer as a kid, a special forces medic for several years as a teenager, as a 20s something, late 20s and early 30s guy, clinical research and medical stuff that was very much this programmed by my family to take that safe road with my intellect. But the entrepreneurial mindset only really impacted me from probably 2010 until today. And it has been through that association. You are basically the books that you read and the people you associate with. You want to see someone's closest 5 friends, you're probably just like them, right? So I kind of want to talk about your origin story. A lot of us start, wherever we start in life, and how you made that journey to one, choose a profession of being very high skill, jet pilot. And then also about that association with people that have different mindsets than maybe my origin, at least. I don't know yours. Can you talk a little bit about your youth and transition into this career path you have right now?
So I'm originally from France, but I moved to Boston when I was a kid. So pretty much grew up there. And then I went to flight school shortly after college. It's just something I wanted to do. At the time, it was accessible. It wasn't quite as expensive as it is now. And it was just, I like the technology involved in aviation. I love this, pretty much the scenery. You just see, beautiful landscapes and get to see the world. So pretty much his childhood fascination. I was lucky enough to be able to follow that. So I would say pretty fortunate overall from that perspective. And then, unfortunately, when you get into an industry, you see the less fun portion of it, and the airlines just seemed that once you got there, you kind of stopped flying, and your love for aviation would kind of go away. But this part of aviation, private jets, you do everything from the planning, and it's just much more exciting. And another thing you mentioned is, you go to all these places, and at least not everybody, but since I only fly for 2 people, you really get to meet these extremely successful people. And especially in Puerto Rico, because it's such a small, it's a small island and a small crowd, that you really get to learn on how these people run their businesses and their mentalities. And and that's probably made me, really take the big plunge into the whole crypto space, is just, seeing this level of risk coming from aviation, which is super old school, like 1960s mentality, unionized and everything. The profession can be risky, but the whole life around it they try to make it as stable as possible. And it's definitely not entrepreneurial, but being here and having seen that, it really made like getting into more high risk, investments a lot more palatable, I guess. And definitely, though, the people that make this much money tend not to be your average person. They all have eccentric personalities. They all work very, very hard. But then they definitely have a great lifestyle. And I hope Hexicans can start enjoying it too.
Yeah. Well, again, so a lot of people, they're familiar with who they associate with. They're familiar with maybe the success story of their neighborhood or their small community or something like that. But to come across someone like an Ellison or a Jobs or some founder that really has the gravitas and the ambition and the sleepless nights to invest into themselves and their company, Richard Hart, this kind of thing. It tends to come with eccentricity. It tends to come with a narcissist ego, because anybody that becomes successful, you say, hey, I'm going to be president one day. I'm going to fly jets, and I'm going to one day be an astronaut. I'm going to one day go to the bottom of the ocean or go to Mars or be an Elon Musk personality. It comes with eccentricity. It just always does. Yeah.
Well, Brock, he's on the island. He's as eccentric as it gets. So I did quite a bit of research on Richard prior to making any investments. And, I like what he says. And I've been around a lot of Bitcoin maximalists since being in Puerto Rico. I've been flying to, the conferences. And I was at all the whale parties at the conference. And I like what he says, because a lot of the criticism is if you really look down at any of the other investments, it's really no different than them. And I think it's a great choice. And just regrets on my end that I wasn't in earlier.
Yeah. So really happy to have you on board. I definitely want to bring you into the Discourse Syndicate. We do this stream. I don't know if you are available, but it'll be probably 10 p.m. Eastern time. I don't know what time zone you're in. They do it 7 p.m. Pacific time, but maybe I can bring you in either tonight on Fridays or on next Friday or something like that. But I'm definitely excited to hear the background story. And then tell me a little bit, you said that you made this exploration. You knew me, and you knew I talked about Hex like a year ago or something like that when we were upstairs on in Puerto Rico. But tell me your journey of, let's see what Hex is about. Let's see what Richard's about. And then how you became aware of Pulse, because we just talked not long ago. And I know that you have other associations and friends that are putting into Pulse. I'm putting significant money into Pulse. Yeah. People have different belief systems and such. And I plan to sit on it for 2, maybe 3 years and see if it plays out like Ethereum. So tell me how you came to your investment decision and how basically your network of associates look at the Pulse opportunity the same, similarly.
So I would say my coming to Hex was a fail because I didn't come to it right when you brought it to me, and it's because you told me about it. I remember it very clearly right before the big payday, and then I looked at the charts and it was already in a hockey stick. So my first thing is wait until there's a correction, and so I waited, and then I was being in an echo chamber. People I fly have crypto hedge funds of, Bitcoin maximalism and stuff. And I kind of didn't look at it for a while. Right. And then I looked at it again and I was like, oh boy, I should have. Because
I remember talking to you, it was like either half a cent or 1 cent. Or I can't remember what the price point was.
Yeah, right before the big payday. And then, I invested in quite a few other cryptos. So I didn't do bad. You look at the S&P. Yeah, you look at the S&P. I killed that 3, 4, 5x, like no problem. Yeah. But that's not even close, know. Yeah. So then I pretty much, everything was doing fine. There was a big correction a couple months ago. I'm still up way ahead. Obviously not what was before. And then with Pulse, a couple of the guys that I know are portfolio managers. That personally are probably putting in probably $1 million into the sacrifice.
Yep.
And I really started looking at it more, and I really wanted to know more about Richard because being the founder, and I know other big names in the space personally, and I liked what he had to say. First of all, he's a funny guy. Like I have to say, the YouTube
it's an entertaining ride, regardless of the speculative nature.
His wardrobe is awesome, and so he made it very easy and entertaining. And I've been listening to tons of podcasts like the What Is Money show, the Robert Breedlove, which really talks about everything from fiat. Like what it is, how it's, how the monetary system works. And really going down the Bitcoin rabbit hole. And then when you, after you've done that and you listen to what Richard says and not being a complete, Bitcoin maximalist, even though I'm sure he's got plenty of it, more of a utilitarian maximalist. And then it just leaves it open for so many other investments. And then you really wrap your head around it. And there's no reason, I'm sure you've heard every negative thing about it, but there's no reason why not. It's solid, and if there's a good community and people that want to support it, there's it's the technology works, and at the end of the day, look at the returns. It's crazy, and it's almost shocking why some of the broader crypto community that I'm around doesn't talk about it more than they do. And I understand they're really institutional investors and running portfolios, and they can't invest into a lot of things. They need institutions like Fireblocks just for the regulatory aspects. Mm-hmm. And so like telling them to go, like they're just barely using MetaMask and Bitcoin at this point,
Right. So that's one of the things that, again, to keep you in the loop about what is happening, Richard is talking, and he has been for some time, so who knows when it might launch. But there are people that are big enough money-wise, cash position, where they are actually forming hedge funds, crypto hedge funds. And some of the most recent conversations that we've seen some titillating details about is a Hex ETF or a Hex based product that can be sold very similar to Grayscale, so a Hex version of Grayscale. So you are seeing, Harvard people, Stanford people that have an influence inside the crypto, not just in the crypto space, but in the conventional finance legacy space. And they are saying those same pain points that you said. Hey, I can really only invest and play in the Bitcoin world, or I can play in the Ethereum, or maybe basket of cryptocurrencies, kind of sell shares, buy shares, only collect and never sell, like Grayscale. And you're seeing the same things play out with Hex. So keep your eyes open to what is happening. And I love the feedback that you're giving me about the current crypto investors, the successful ones, and whether the tide is turning on some of the gatekeeping. When you go to CoinMarketCap, you don't see Hex in the top 10. But when you go to every other platform, Nomics, Gecko, and things like that, you do. And when you look at, like today, if you go to CoinMarketCap and you click on the highest percentage gain coins out of 10,000 coins that they supposedly list, Hex is not in that list. But if you go to Etherscan, and you look at the numbers, if you look, it's because they're manually gatekeeping us. Now, Bitcoin Smart Chain probably will see Pulse as direct competitor. So the CoinMarketCap listing of all the coins that are out there really are just reflecting the portfolio that they want to monetize and eat people as trading commissions to be on their Binance platforms and so forth. Versus the DeFi space, which is more Uniswap, 1inch, Matcha.xyz, basically peer-to-peer finance. So it's really interesting when the word gets out. Right now, you are pretty viral, whether it's Hex or Pulse or knowing who Richard is or knowing that there's 30,000 people in a community that are really hungry. And you are seeing 160 million or 180 million or whatever it is in 30 hours, basically, between this community buying into a Pulse percentage of the network. That's validation to me. And that's where I throw my funds. It's the same sort of thing.
You're so early. I mean, if you can get there before the institutions, I mean, I see it as just such an asymmetric bet, I guess. I mean, it's you can make a 10x, and even worse case, I would be highly surprised that it really goes down. And what Richard always says, it could go down 85%. Well, so can Bitcoin.
The best performing crypto with OG legacy and liquidity went down to like the whole crypto market was like 200 billion or 150 billion or something like that during the bear. During the rise to 20,000, during the collapse to 3,200 or 3,800 or whatever it was whenever I got Bitcoin position again. And then, the narrative of, Bitcoin from the Max Kaisers and from the, the OG, all the people that are OG, they defend their bags, they defend their position. So brand name of Bitcoin and liquidity of the existing participation by the, whether it's institution or not, that can do ETF and CME kind of trades and go into cash, that's really what pushes the journalism of what's happening in crypto, right? But when you look at the real world, and you look at actual like performance metrics and how many people have wallets and people like I just interviewed right before you, Steph, stepping away from Google and becoming an entrepreneur and building all of these things, these tools, these Hex.vision and Staker.app and stuff like that. The real world is moving on. There's more liquidity on Ethereum for Bitcoin as a second layer than the Lightning Network on Bitcoin. So
I mean, I use Wrap Bitcoin all the time.
Me too.
And I think Bitcoin, I left some in BlockFi or whatever, and I didn't touch it. Yeah. So I mean, this is and the Pulse. We'll see what happens, but if it works as we're hoping, there's no reason there's not mass adoption on it.
Absolutely.
So fingers crossed. Fingers
crossed.
I think it's the most rational thing that you could do in this space. And then the overall monetary policy coming out of the Fed, doubling the monetary supply, like it sounds crazy, but these are some of the most rational decisions I think you can make. I know they're highly speculative, but it's it's what we have. And I think it's an opportunity. It's one of the better opportunities out there.
Yeah, I mean, Richard was just commenting earlier on Crypto Banter. He was a guest on Crypto Banter today. So if you look up Rand and you look up Crypto Banter's conversation, Richard was just on there. And he made these comments about, you've never in the history of the United States seen the government give directly to every citizen money. You've never seen that before. And you've never seen things like the PPP or the care package or like I said, like you already commented, the inflation of the monetary supply within 12 months of, 1/3 of the total. Right.
So crazy.
It's ridiculous. Right. So whether we go into just fast inflation or we go into hyperinflation, you have to be in some kind of, whether it's real estate, commodity, you have to be in something tangible. You have to be in something crypto. You have to outperform the massive debasement of our currency.
Yeah,
that's
and
happening.
I think it's going to be just asset prices, but essentially, what the stuff you were talking about, the stuff that you want that everybody wants on Instagram, nice real estate, those kinds of things. Preferred shares in good companies. The best assets are where they're really going to rise. I don't see like CPI getting too out of hand, but that's just a number with kind of a bullshit metrics anyway.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, look at Ocean Park. You live in Ocean Park. I live in Ocean Park. I would say houses rose probably 30-40%. I'm being humble about it in the last year, and I mean, that's what I'm looking at.
Yeah, I'm selling a property that in California beside Apple. Of course, it has the gravitas of Silicon Valley and things like that. But I bought it. It was a 5-bedroom, 4-bathroom at the time. It was 2,600 square foot, which is pretty sizable for that area. And I'm a single guy. And I just needed something as a tax deduction and something I could sublet out to basically executives or whatever. So I bought for $790. I put $200 of my own savings into its remodel for its appropriate use case. I think my total cost as overhead of the PITI or the mortgage plus the utilities to house these guys was like $5,000 per month, but I was making like $27,000 per month for basically the past 7 years. That was great. And then COVID hit, and when COVID hit, the intern for NVIDIA that's coming and getting stipend, the executive that says, I've just gotten hired at Apple and I need to move my family and I'm going to come as an advanced party for 3 months and find out what schools and where to buy an actual house. Those guys stopped because all of the big Silicon Valley companies said, we are going to embrace teleconferencing. We are going to embrace work from home. We might have a place in downtown San Francisco for Twitter that has 5,000 employees and nobody's going to come to this building anymore. We're just going to give everybody $5,000 to work from home and build their own computer system. Apple spent $8 billion on the building less than a quarter mile from where I'm at, $8 billion on a piece of real estate development to house 20,000 people. About 4 months before COVID is when it opened up. And then once COVID hit, the liberal mindset, the vaccine and everybody's going to die mentality of our politics of 2020 basically said, okay, Apple, and Apple made this command decision. Everybody's going to work from home. There's less than 1,000 people that need to be in the basement that's really developing the tech. Everybody else is in cubicles. So you're seeing an exodus out of California. Even with the exodus, my $790,000 investment that had $200,000 in remodeling, so less than $1 million, in this hyperinflating monetary base expansion, people are just trying to grab something. My property is going to suffer for like 2.4, somewhere in there. So I'll make $1 million, $1.2 million just off of a real estate play because of our inflation. Now I need to roll that over in a 1031. I need to buy something somewhere else. That's why I'm looking at Miami and this academy concept. That's why I'm looking in Puerto Rico. That's why I'm looking in other places. But you have to be investor class. You have to be inventor or innovator class. You have to be founder or brand distributor of your own thing in 2022 and 23 and 24. Because if you are simply a wage earner and that's the straight path you're going to go, you're going to get debased into oblivion. And you're going to have to say, in the 1950s, it could be a single employed person supporting a family of 3 kids and a spouse in the 1950s. And then in the 2000s, you have to be dual income in order to support any kind of offspring or dependent. You have to be dual income, or you have to be very high income W-2. Outside of that, you might see that you have to put your kids to work in order to eat, in order to have a roof over your head in 5 or 10 years, as this thing goes through a debasement. That's my opinion. They're throwing money out of helicopters.
I don't. Where else can it go? I mean, where else can it go from that? If it's the real earnings are not going to go up. They're not going to keep up with rising prices. It's just not going to happen. But I don't see it as a massive spike. Like next year, the prices are going to double, but it's going to be slow and painful. Yeah. But hopefully, so the crypto thing to me it's a lifeboat for that. I mean, it's real estate, crypto. I think equities are overvalued because every single 401k in the country is in those things. Bonds, forget about it. I mean, they're negative real yields. So, I mean, and so why would you not look at the best performing asset in crypto? And, eventually, even with, all the maximalists I was around the whole time, I finally got back to it. It's better late than never.
Yeah. So give me your opinion of the if we capture some percentage of the Ethereum network, that's really I wouldn't say direct competitor, but we are basically parallel. What are your thoughts? And again, I'm going to hold for about 2 years, 3 years, because I'm an older guy. I'm not a 25-year-old or young guy like a lot of you guys that are fit and good looking. So I'm really, my profile is 2-3 years, and I typically exited to real estate because once I force that equity up on the property through increasing the rent rolls or increasing the population or maybe rehabbing, but rarely, then I can get that equity back out and put it right back into crypto or into a different asset class, whatever it might be. So I just like real estate because it is shorting the dollar. When you get a 10-year mortgage or 30-year mortgage as a private residence and you get it at 2% or 2.5%, you are shorting the dollar. Yeah. So I like the real estate play and back and forth between the asset classes.
Well, I mean, one of the events in San Juan, a couple of the big names are buying up a bunch of real estate and PR just because their financial advisors are telling them this was during the bull run. Mm-hmm. They have stupid money and they need to diversify. And real estate was pretty much one of the only asset classes. And in Puerto Rico, there's so many amazing tax incentives, tax breaks, even for real estate as well. But I think for Miami, for what you're trying to do, that probably makes a little more sense. Because, I mean, at the end of the day, I'm probably a little quieter lifestyle like you. I love the island vibe and the ocean sports. But if you really want to enjoy the Hexagon gains and stuff, I would say probably your idea in Miami is a better place for that. There's just a lot more going on.
Yeah, I mean, and again, these 22 to 35-year-old guys that have come into some money recently, I don't want them to create sell down pressure because they want their own Lambo. They can have a Lambo for a week. They can have an experience in a popular place. They can have, there's beautiful women and there's lifestyle here in Puerto Rico, but honestly, the roads are shit. So you have to have a Jeep of some kind or SUV. You can have a nice compound. You can find a nice place. Peter Schiff and Maloney and Pulsian and rich people are here. Brock Pierce. There's a lot of rich people here.
Is pretty crazy, but I think you would be bored out of your mind if you were less than 35 in Dorado.
Yeah. If you're 35 to 55 and you've had some money that whether it's through conventional legacy finance kind of vehicles, or if you've recently had some windfall in crypto, and you want your kids to be raised in a bilingual culture and have, ocean front property and things like that, it's a great experience.
Oh, you can't beat it. Yeah.
Yeah. And if you want to play the game of saying, I'll be here 5 or 6 months and I'll comply for tax reasons so that I can roll, instead of my money going to government, I can roll that tax savings into diversifying in real estate in the States or where you feel comfortable, or speculating further into crypto, then again, I just take this tax savings of being in Puerto Rico as a Act 2022 guy and roll it into maybe a little bit more of my adventure into speculation or whatever I feel comfortable with.
It's hard not to do. I'm doing the same thing. And what you were saying, I have no idea how Pulse will compete with ETH. If the gas prices are less or almost nil and the speed's better, and some people will start using it. I was using some layer 2s that acted as 401ks that on the Ethereum network, a couple other things, invested in some decentralized exchanges. If they work better on here, again, I think it's all people at the end of the day. Yeah, they want to shill their bags, but eventually where the utility is where they're going to go. You have that, what was it? It slipped my mind. Recently, you had a layer 2 on Ethereum about a couple months ago that was going crazy. Well, I'm on vacation, so I don't have to remember that stuff.
Yeah, you don't have to remember that stuff.
But if it has that kind of performance and it saves the gas fees, people went over to it. I mean, it didn't take
Yep.
long. The minute it started working, they were done. So, and I mean, you wouldn't even need a lot of people to migrate over until there was really, a critical mass would come on over. And I don't even think you need that much if for number go up either.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm very bullish.
Yeah, so Richard is making, and the developer team and things like that. Again, you cannot have expectations of the money that gets sacrificed doing something. It's all of those kind of hedgings as far as performance. But he is a hyper performance polymath in many different ways. And, his ego stroke is very similar to the Larry Ellisons of the world. His ego stroke is very much to, I'm going to dominate this field and I'm going to show you what happens, right? So I love his drive, and I love the community behind it. I just interviewed Steph right before you. There's a lot of us that if crypto never came into our lives, we would still be multimillionaire, successful people that develop, products and services that people want and desire and pay for. And so we are very capitalist in nature as far as the concentration inside of Hex that are people that already have 5 or 6 companies. They already have assets under management or of their own is phenomenal. I haven't seen that. I've seen the gaming culture and the degenerate casino player in crypto in 2017, but I haven't seen this concentration of people that say, how can we take this win and move it into, an academy that teaches people how to protect their, trust? How do we look at their tax savings? How do you look at the opportunity zones of, if it's not Puerto Rico, then Portugal or Malta or whatever, because the world is dynamic. If you think it's still static, like how your parents raised you, 20, 30, 40 years ago, it's not. I mean, we are in an influence, an ADD, a hyper performance world, and you have to keep up.
I think, like you were saying, I think for Asia, like Singapore is going to be the new Hong Kong. And from just looking at the politics, I think Miami, I moved to Puerto Rico from New York, but just the politics up there are a disaster. And Miami seems to have a good head on its shoulders. And I see a lot of entrepreneurs. I mean, I'm sure you're from California. You've seen it. Moving to that area. And there's going to be tons of opportunity there, too. And I think it's awesome what you're doing, whether it's there in Puerto Rico, in helping people understand how to keep your money and how to invest it wisely. Because, I mean, being around the crowd that I work for, I've learned a ton just about, forming companies. Like I know you like to talk about, just to protect your assets, and just the mentality of, once you have that initial capital of really having the balls, you could call it the arrogance of going and doing these things. And these people would have been vast. They were successful before crypto. They were multimillionaires before crypto. And now they're going to be really crazy, multi. One of them probably close to $1 billion by now.
Yeah. And the thing is, a lot of people think that the whales are people that are founders or whatever. The fantasy in their head is that the founder of a big company that's worth $1 trillion, like Amazon or Apple or whatever it might be, that founder is going to do this 10, 15, 20 years later rug pull and murder the price. That the whale is the dangerous person in the room. The dangerous person in the room is the pleb. The guy that 2x'd, he's going to sell. The guy that 4x'd, he's going to sell. The guy that says, hey, I've got effectively on paper, $300 million. Yeah. Do I need to murder the price? No, I don't. I don't have to murder the price. I don't have to murder the community that I built and so this false narrative that Richard's going to do something harmful for the community that he's invested 4 years of his life into, because there's a lot of development time before Hex launched in December of 19. And we were all participants in the logo design and all this stuff like that as far as the community when it was fledgling, and then breaking into the bigger legacy finance space that crypto is doing. Like over the past 4 years, the blow off top of 2017, and then the denouement and the bear market and I told you so's from legacy, and then this more recent bull market has been legacy saying, hey, we got our bags now, let's pump the market. So. Yeah. Well,
I could definitely see a lot of volatility, but from traditional finance, traditional hedge funds moving into the space and using, big money to begin with, big leverage. And so I think there's going to be, I think you'd be, another thing Richard says, I think you'd be crazy to play, day trader game, leverage game in Ethereum, Bitcoin, those things. And just the, buy and hold. I'm going hiking tomorrow. I know you were in the military. I'm actually going to go visit the World War I trenches in the Italian Alps.
Wow,
Huge,
that's amazing.
It's going to be incredible. But that's the kind of have a passive investment where you can do that kind of thing. So I could definitely see a lot of volatility in crypto. I think even more since the institutions are there, but I don't think they're there in Hex yet. I don't think the whales were ever really the problem, like you just said. There's a few founders in Puerto Rico. I'm sure you know them too. They're definitely not the guys. They're going to decimate the company and the tech they built.
Right.
I just don't see it. Anything's possible, but there's some of the top 10 cryptos. I know personally some of the developers that are, they're not retired because they wouldn't know what to do with themselves. But
I'm not retired. I was retired and fucking bored 4 years ago.
Yeah,
5 years ago.
exactly. So, but they're not going to destroy the some of these projects that they built. And these are, I'm not going to say any names or anything, but these are all top 10 cryptos, guys that were mining Bitcoin back when it started. The only person I'll say is, you have Brock there because everybody knows Brock.
Yeah.
But he's not going to go dump all his Bitcoin tomorrow.
Right.
I'd be very.
He's trying to run for president 6
I
months
know
ago.
exactly. It makes me hard. He's too. I would just from seeing his personality and everything, it would be extremely surprising if somebody like that did a kind of rug pull or something.
Yeah, he's been a successful person for a long time. He's been in the space. He was mining, like you already know, Bitcoin when it was like a 50 block reward and things like that, and 50 cent kind of level. He helped make the top of $30 a long time ago. So Richard is set when it comes to that, but this is still a gamer culture. The gamer culture is I'm competing with other people. I want to be the big dick in the room. How do I become that, that dragon energy? How do I capture that?
In the crowd that I fly, the people in the back of the jet, mind you, even if I had that much money, I'd probably still want to be in the front of the jet. But
yeah, me too.
Those guys, they gamble playing golf against each other, and it's all about the game for them. So it's I see that a lot. It's just a mindset, entrepreneurial. It's a game. They want to win with each other. They'll bet each other on playing golf, and they could have retired already. They're in it to build billion-dollar companies to really change the world, and that's not foreign to me since I guess I'm the cab driver with the wings. I'm just an observer to this. But
for now,
yeah,
you're a Pulsian, so who knows where it goes? But
who knows?
For now.
But honestly, even if it did 100x, okay.
Yeah.
And I aped in on the big sacrifice.
Me too. I have a strategy about my distribution, but I'm putting significant money in. Yeah.
I'll heckle you for that later. But
yeah.
But I would probably do very much the same things I'm doing now. I'm living in tropical paradise. I like fishing and all the ocean sports. And there's a few other people that weren't even to crypto that moved to the island for the tax incentives. And they're like, oh, holy shit, even with the crypto, what am I going to do? And they're like, same thing I'm already doing, fishing and playing golf. So I probably wouldn't. I don't see myself changing too much. Yeah. It would be stupid to just lay on your ass and do nothing. And that's one another great thing about the crypto community and the expats in Puerto Rico is you have all these entrepreneurs that really were trying to get out of, paying higher capital gains. So these are all people that made it themselves. Mm-hmm. Like you. Mm-hmm. And so it's a very different mentality than, the cliche trust fund wealth. And some of the people there, a good buddy of mine that I fish with all the time, he said the only other place he's had that, atmosphere was Stanford Business School.
Yeah.
And he had plenty of money before ever even hearing about crypto. He went to Stanford Business, brilliant guy, did some consumer tech deals, private equity, and it's just these people are just they're builders, they're entrepreneurs, and they thrive on that, and it's very cool to be around. And like you were saying earlier, if you can be around 5 people and you'll hopefully be like them, I want to hang out with these kind of people, because it's you're learning, you want to be the dumbest guy in the room.
Yeah, and that's a hard position for a lot of ego. A lot of people want to be the smartest guy in the room and get that ego stroke from sycophants, but you should be the dumbest person in the room. Dumbing is a phrase, but basically you really want to have a place where you can soak up knowledge about how things operate, how psychology, how number go up, how, and that's this association that we have. And it's really concentrated in Puerto Rico, obviously because of the tax structure situation, the opportunity zone situation, real estate plays and things like that. Just like it's hyper concentrated in New York and hyper concentrated in Silicon Valley. So, this nepotism of ideas, like you're sharing, this is how I did it with this particular app or this particular play. It is one of the things inside of crypto too, this association. So very happy to have you, known to the community. I did see earlier, and I don't know that you really, I really appreciate you coming on as a guest. I did see earlier someone was asking, do you have a Twitter? Do you have an Instagram? Is there anything that you self-promote?
No, but I should, because I have a spearfishing club in Puerto Rico, and everybody's got GoPros, and we've been meaning to do a YouTube channel. So when I get back in August, staying in Europe until the end of the month, I'm gonna put up the YouTube channel, and we'll do a Instagram as well. I have an old one. I haven't looked at it. I have a Twitter. It's just Thomas Diaz 13. But all I do is retweet stupid memes about.
I love it. Well, you are familiar. I think you're very familiar with Miami. You know that I'm going to be doing this thing in Miami. My really good friend is very similar to you, just a charismatic, honest, transparent kind of personality, involved with different things, entrepreneurial, very similar to you. And you might have seen the stream or maybe not. My good friend Kinmond, he was making like $300,000 or $400,000 a month in like t-shirt sales on Facebook. And he lives the life like you do. He goes jumping out of planes. He does all of this paragliding. He does spearfishing constantly. He definitely needs to meet you.
He's got to come to PR and join the club. It's just, I mean, in PR, everybody's in WhatsApp groups, and everybody gets together every weekend. And we go on charters, and the whole thing is we build spear guns, we go on charters, we shoot big fish, and then the recipes, the grills, the parties, like it's the full, I call it the vertically integrated hobby from, from fishing all the way to the barbecue. And he should definitely come. And if you have any any viewers on here that want to come to PR, they'd be welcome to join our group and come fishing with us.
I was trying to see if I can find this picture real fast. Sharing on this screen is a little hard, but let me see if I can open this up to. Let me see if I can get it. Hang on a moment. Let me see if I can do that. Okay. So I want to share this screen, which is this. And let's talk a few moments. Can you see this picture? Talk about the type of planes that you fly, and talk about, I'm going to a Robert Kiyosaki's house somewhere or whatever in Scottsdale in like November. And I would like to get Hexicans, part of their brand influence really honestly is, like Ty Lopez. Do you have a fancy car in the garage? Do you have a lifestyle that I want? People usually are attracted to, do you have what I want and how can I get there? So when you talk about the cost versus of your time, when it's private flight travel versus the anxiety of public 500 people travel, can you talk about that element? And can you talk about?
You can never go back. Once you sit there, you can never go back. So I would say don't ever go there, because then you'll be too jaded to go back to the airline terminal. It's the comfort. You see it. That couch pulls out into a queen size bed. That's That's a Challenger 601. It's an older airplane, but the interior is brand new. And airplanes go by flight hours and takeoffs and landings, so the year doesn't really matter. It's how much it's used, and it has pretty much this brand new interior. The walls are upholstered leather. I think on the seat, I can't remember the name because I don't reupholster my Ferraris anytime, but it's some famous person. I think it was like a $500,000 interior. Anyway, 10 people comfy, super comfy. One more on the jump seat. There's 2 crew. I'm one of them. There's a bathroom back there. It's a great airplane because you can stand up. It's super fat. It's like a Canadair regional jet, same tube. And the owner, I can't say any names, but is originally from Scottsdale. So that's funny that you mentioned Robert there. And now this airplane is owned by one guy, and it's not on a charter certificate. So with airplanes, similar to with taxi services, for taxis, you need to have a commercial driver's license and commercial insurance, et cetera, et cetera. Well, aviation works much the same. If you're chartering it out to paying clients, you're under different licenses. For the insurance is different. And I would have to go, I just have to do a different annual course. I have to go to the flight simulator to train on it every year, just like airline pilots do. But you just have to do it under different regulation. We don't do that because that costs money for nothing. But what you can do is if the owner is on board, you can you'd be welcome to fly with us. If you're going PR or Miami to Scottsdale, and you want to if you want to talk about crypto and stuff, it probably wouldn't be a big deal to get some friends on there. The owner would be happy to meet people, especially people going from Puerto Rico out to Arizona. And if you have a company and you want to have access to an airplane, the other option beyond chartering is called a dry lease. So what you can do is you could lease that plane from the owner, but you would have to do like a 50 or 100 hour block of hours. And then you would have to find the crew and the fuel yourself. That's the line between saying I rented the plane, and since I hired the crew myself and paid for the fuel, then that other person is not responsible for the safety of the flight. Mm-hmm. All that really means is that me and the other guy I fly with would need to be paid directly from you, and then you would lease the aircraft from the owner. But the FAA doesn't want that to be a loophole around charters, which they're right. I mean, they're there to keep everybody safe. And so it would really only make sense if you wanted to lease like 50 or 100 hour block. And that airplane, probably around $4,000 to $5,000 an hour without the fuel. Yeah. So it's it's a heavy private jet. It's not a small Lear. Like it's a 45,000.
I think you had said it was 11 seat plus a crew or something like that for the Challenger.
But it's very comfortable. You have tons of space. It's not like a cramped Lear jet or a Citation. It's considered a heavy business aircraft, like a heavy jet.
Well, again, if you distribute that over, the passengers, whether they're individual paying or not, to basically be a collective and pay for the flight. When you really break down the numbers of a flight to, what is Scottsdale? How many hours is that from Miami?
From Miami, we usually go PR, so I don't know off the top of my head. I'd probably say like 3 or 4 hours, something like that.
So it becomes, like Michael, the producer, he's got a big channel on YouTube, and he talks a lot about jet leasing and things like that versus, commercial. And it really breaks down to not what you think it is an expense, but it definitely saves your opportunity, your anxiety. You're prepared for a speech on a stage. You're a hyper performing person instead of an anxious person over your commercial flight experience.
There's also another service that's pretty cool too, which outcompetes. It depends what you're doing. So I think the leasing and the partial ownership is the best way to go. if you fly a lot. If you only fly once a year, just charter it, you know. But if you fly consistently, this is a bigger airplane, so it makes sense if you're going Puerto Rico, New York City.
Yeah.
Something like this. But if you're only going Puerto Rico, Miami, or Miami, Chicago, or something like this, there's way smaller private jets that are way, way cheaper than that. For example, a friend of mine works at a company called Go Jet It, and they have a fleet of those new Honda jets. Have you seen those things?
Yeah,
they're unreal.
Yeah.
I think it's like $650,000, and you get a partial ownership. Then it's only like $1,200 an hour, but they're super fast. And I mean, $1,200 an hour, you can fit 5 people in there. Yeah. So if you have a membership, you split $1,200 with 5 friends. You're on par with the airlines, just for those trips. So I just wanted to paint a different picture, because that's a big jet for longer distances. The owner's like 6'3". He wanted something you could stand up in, you know. Yeah. But there's actually economical things that I think are going to get way more popular, since airline travel is just turning into a nightmare. You know, I mean, actually, it wasn't too bad. I came international with all the COVID restrictions. It wasn't a hassle. I'm in Italy right now, but you know, who knows what's going to happen? More lockdowns. We'll see.
Well, the framing again of the experience of you're going to get a couple of pretzels. I remember when I was a kid or a young guy, you had an actual, here's a lunch, here's a dinner. It's not a box cracker. It's not, that kind of thing as far as regular civilian, you book on Travelocity or Expedia or something. That experience is horrible. European experience is still fairly good. You can get good things in Korea line, or you can get good things in Air France or something by comparison. But even when you upgrade to business class or something like that, it's really not that good of an experience. Yeah.
No, but from like I said, like in private aviation like this, I'd say I'm 50% concierge. Like the owner texts me, "Oh, could we have this catering from this restaurant for that flight?" I deal with that as well. So nice. I mean, any restaurant in Miami, if we're departing Miami, we'll have that food on there. You know, it's whatever the owner wants. It's a whole nother. It's unimaginable until you've hung out and then in that space, and then it's just you don't want to get back on Spirit after that.
Yeah, Spirit, exactly. So so I want to talk to you offline. Not today. I'm really super booked, but I do want to talk with you offline about what you think as far as advisement on this flight that's definitely coming up to Scottsdale from probably Miami, because by November, which is the thing to Kiyosaki's, that's why I want to do it. By that time, we should have a property, like a $5 million property with like supercars and stuff like that. We'll be shooting a lot of video content for our Wealth Academy to keep you guys that are watching rich, to keep you from getting sued, to keep you from spending down your nouveau rich money, and give you some Instagram lifestyle if that's what you're looking for, but also get the lawyers, the CPAs, get the professionals that know what they're doing to protect you, to get the dating coaches if you've been an awkward guy in your basement and now you've come into some money with crypto, to get this stuff protecting you, because I really am defensive about hexagons. I came out of my pseudo retirement because of Richard Hart. I speculated. Because Crypto Beatles, my good friend, and my experience back in 2017 led me to Richard Hart. Then it became a community. A lot of ex-military guys. I have a band of brothers as far as the hexagons. And I see new people coming in constantly that I don't want them to get wrecked through their new experience. There's a lot of people that have a windfall of some, lottery hit or something like that, and they're flat dead broke within a couple of years because they just mismanaged their money. So my Hex or my university academy education thing, that's going to be probably Miami as the first site, is really to protect guys. So I love having the association with you. And if we can book something that is, like 11 guys going from Miami, branding themselves and doing their Instagram stuff with a nice jet that goes to Scottsdale and has this experience with Kiyosaki and Gammon and Jason Hartman and all these people, I think it'd just play out perfectly. I think that'll be a wonderful experience for everybody.
We go to Scottsdale often. So it's probably doable if we're flying there anyway. then there's space available. I mean, especially if you're going to be in PR, I'll just introduce you. Half the time there's empty seats. He's just going to be like, "You want to go to Scottsdale? Let's go." Like he doesn't care. You know, it's a small community in PR. He'll be happy to. Yeah. I don't even think you would need to do a charter or anything. I think if we're going anyway, you guys could just hop on. And especially the owner, he loves supercars too. If he's got, I think he's got 4 Ferraris, so he collects them. So I think it might be just a fun thing for everybody. Yeah.
Again, I think it'll be good association. Yeah, so I do need to ditch out. I really appreciate you joining me today. You took time out in a different country, in a different time zone, in a different vacation, spending some of your vacation. Definitely, if you have opportunity to join in like 5 hours, it's probably too late for you. But on Friday,
I've got a big hike tomorrow. But if I still have jet lag, I'll log in for sure.
Yeah, but definitely stay in touch, and let's strategize on the November thing. Once I have a property, I definitely want to have you in Miami more often. I definitely want to have you on the channel more often. I think you're just a lovely associate, and I really appreciate it.
No, it's been fun, and we'll have to go fishing back in PR.
Terrific, cheers. Man. Cheers, everybody. Thanks, man. So that was a great experience. I hope that Hexicans enjoyed that little snapshot of the lifestyle outside of crypto. The lifestyle of legacy people that are billionaires, that are successful in all these different capacities. Some of the audience that I'm talking with regularly and are coming out of retirement, basically to help you guys. The Hex Academy, you've seen my streams. Look on Funding Gym channel. Go to YouTube, search out Funding Gym, and look at my most recent stream talking about Hex Academy. There is a form. If you're interested in being an investor, then reach into that form. If you're interested in being a student, then direct message me, t.me Funding Gym. And the thing is, we're not looking to monetize people. What we are trying to do is protect you. You're going to date a supermodel. Don't get hurt financially. You're going to drive a supercar. Does it have to be your $200,000 that you sell down Hex in order to have that life experience and that Instagram picture? Maybe not. We are going to be bringing professionals that deal with corporate trusts and entities all the time. You know, my lawyer and my CPA in Puerto Rico deals with billionaires constantly, and we can introduce you to that network. You want to be a brand, you want to step up to the plate and be some kind of public figure. I want to bring more people online as far as public figures and give you some of the gravitas that, you know, some of us that have kind of, again, I went dormant for a couple of years, but I'm, you know, I don't know if that COVID thing or that vaccine fired me up, but I feel like I'm a super soldier now. And it's not just the Hex performance. It is basically this entrepreneurial fire that's, you know, triggered again. So I really appreciate you guys joining in. Make sure you find that form or these other content. If you can join on to the Discourse Syndicate tonight, then definitely join in. I may not be able to join, but we will see. And thanks again for everybody. I appreciate it. And I'm going to end the podcast. Later, guys. Oh, wait a minute. I got to do the brand stuff because I'm on somebody else's channel. Let's see if we can do the exit. Is the exit in here? No, it's not. All right. So I'm just going to ditch. Later, guys.